So the next step on the list is to go ahead and get the vertical stabilizer put on. So all you're going to do is basically the same process that we used to put on the horizontal stabilizer. This same process basically is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and bring the vertical stabilizer in. Now note that I went ahead and didn't put in my hinge down on the bottom of the rudder that goes into the fuselage. I'm going to save that until I have everything set up here so it's not getting in my way. And then simply all you're going to do is go ahead and fit the vertical stabilizer down into place. Make sure you get it all the way forward and all the way seated. And then I'm going to simply do the same exact thing I did on the horizontal stabilizer as well. I'm going to start here and I'm going to make a line on my covering Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Again, I'm going to do this on both sides. And that's going to wind up being our cut line for our covering so that we can get good adhesion with our epoxy to the fuselage. And again, now I'm going to cut my covering back so that I get good adhesion with my fuselage. I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did before. I'm first of all going to start out with a brand new, very sharp number 11 hobby blade. And you can see my line runs about right there. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to come down from that line and make another line that's underneath of it. In this case, I'm going to go, probably about like a 1/4 inch. I'm going to come down about a 1/4 inch. And I'm going to make a second line. Now this second line is going to end up being my cut line. And again, it's going to be the same thing it was on the other side. The reason I am doing this is so that I have covering between where the top of the fuselage is going to hit versus the covering that's on the rudder, because I don't want this to come loose over time. Once I get this cut, I'm going to go ahead and iron this down good so that I have a gap so that when I install my vertical stabilizer to my fuselage, I've got some covering in there that'll keep that nice and tight, and it shouldn't want to pull away from there later on down the road. So again, I'm going to start with my number 11 hobby blade, and I'm just going to go ahead and use my straight edge. Now remember, when you're doing this, you're using a very sharp blade, so you don't have to press very hard. You're only pressing just far enough so that you're cutting the covering free from the stabilizer. You don't want to go crazy and start cutting into your wood. And you can use a straight edge just to ensure that you keep it nice and straight. I'm going to overpass this a couple times because I have a couple of layers of covering here. And I want to make sure I get it all the way cut through. And then what I'm simply going to do is I'm just going to do the same thing I did on the horizontal, is I'm going to go ahead and cut this free so that I can get it peeled off easy. Again, you don't want to go crazy with the pressure at this section because you don't want to be cutting into your surface. You literally just want to grab enough so that you can peel the covering free without damaging the wood underneath. There's that first cut, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. What I'm going to do before I get my epoxy all mixed up and ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and test fit this into the fuselage so that I make sure that I got all my cuts properly made and that I didn't mess it up. It's going to be much easier to fix anything that I messed up on now versus when I have it all epoxied back into the airframe. And that looks like it's going to be perfect. I see no issues at all with that. I'm going to touch this up with the iron a little bit, and then we're going to get it epoxied in. Again, same thing as the horizontal. We're going to use 30-minute epoxy here so they have plenty of work time, and then we can leave it set till it's cured. So now you can see we've got the vertical stabilizer all put in. We didn't have any epoxy run over, so we didn't need to clean anything up, and everything's all set. We're going to let that dry and cure, and then we're going to move on to the next step, which is going to be to install the pull-pull system and the elevator control.